Monoh of Yaakov, so Bilam said, who can count the grains of earth of Yaakov or Mispar and the number as Reva Yisrael? And the word Reva actually gives several explanations. One is even 1/4 of their encampment. When they encamped, they went all four directions. And as we'll see, Reva also means to impregnate their seed. This pasuk is referring to the present time at that time. Zman hazeh, which means nowadays, before Mashiach comes. And it's also a prophecy about La'asid Lavai, when Mashiach will come. Kemuvan, we see these two taichin, that is present and future. It's also understood mimashakasa b'siyim ha'inyan. He says, some sukkim later, this is Pasuk Yud and Pasuk Chav Gimel, that's the end of his nevuah. He says, Ka'esi Omer Yaakov Yisrael ma'pal kel. Now is said to Yaakov and to Israel what God does. So Rashi brings there, sheyesh b'zeh beis pirushim, two explanations, the present and future. Actually, Rashi brings the first future, then present, but here he brings it present and future for the obvious reason. Aleph lashon ha'iveh, he's not quoting Rashi. He's just saying it to Pirushim. He's bringing it in the Seder of number one, present. Va'beis lashon osid. And the second, it's a future prophecy. And the meaning ka'es means not now, but oid osid liyuseis. There will be a time when, as in a time will come, or ka'es as in the present. So, as he explains the Rashi, that in the present they have the Urim Betumim that tells them God's desires, what God's intention is. And in the future, they'll be closer to Hashem even than Malachim, and then Malachim will inquire of the Yidden what's happening in the inner court. What do they wish to say? So this is all to say that there are two Pirushim in his Nevuahs here, present and future. So now going back to the beginning of that segment, which is what we're talking about, this is Perek Chav Gimel. The pasuk that we are looking at, that we began with Monoh, who can count, Shekoi Hein Al Yazman. It refers to the present, who can count, Vehein, and also Ubeiken, primarily the future. Why? Al Azman Sha'alav Nemar, on the future, in terms of the counting Eden. So in the future, in Hosea, the Navi says, V'hoya mispar b'nei Yisrael k'chel hayom. The number of the Eden will be like the granules of the sand of the sea. Asher layomed v'layisafa, cannot be measured or counted. Now, having established that there's present and future, in the pasuk Monoh of Yaakov Mispar es Reva Yisrael, now he adds something. Just like we see in the pasuk of the future nevuah, it also talks about counting. Let's look at it again. It says, "V'hoya mispar b'nei Yisrael k'chelim." The number will be like the sand of the sea. Asher leyomed v'lo yisafer. It cannot be measured or counted. So the pasuk is niskro beise in yonim. There's actually two things here, and on the surface, somewhat contradictory. Because first he says, mispar, the number will be, so there is a number. What will the number be? K'chel hayom. And then he says, v'lo yisafer, it can't be counted. So there's two elements here on this count. One that can be measured and one that can't be. Al derech beis ha'yifanim, this is similar to our pasuk, the second half of the pasuk, which says, shesh lefarish b'masher kosov, we can explain the same way, or mispar es Reva Yisrael. Who can count the dust of Yaakov or mispar and the number? So this word mispar is is a number or not a number. So one taich is Aleph. Yeah, sheyesh mispar. There is a number to a quarter of the Vabez. And the second Pirish in the word mispar at the end of our pasuk, Kipirish HaKosev, which flows more with the flow how the pasuk began. Sheba behemshach masha kosev ascholas HaKosev mimana. The kosev begins with who can count that you can't. Hainu mi yuchal lisper is who could count the me, who, the question, the unanswered question, because you cannot. It refers not just to the beginning of the pasuk, but the end. The Reva Yisrael. Shal derech masha kosev. So our pasuk as well lends itself to these two explanations, just like masha kosev, the pasuk from Moishe, vayom mispar, there's a number, then asher leyom v'leisofer, there's not a number. So the conclusion, if we're learning Pshat correctly, is this: the Rebbe is pointing out that there's two inyonim here, with two takeaways from our pasuk, one present, one future. Secondly, there's two ways to taich u'mispar esreva Yisrael. One is the number, there is a number, or behemshach, at the beginning of the pasuk, as a rhetorical question, mi Monoh, who can count? There isn't a number. And these two ways of understanding, there is and there is not, is also conveyed in the pasuk in Isaiah. Two ways to taich over there. Well, not two ways to taich. The pasuk itself lent itself to the two pirushim in the two parts of the pasuk. Because the first part says, the number will be, there is a number, and then concludes with, it's not the same word touching two ways. It's the pasuk itself gives the two pirushim. And at the end, I say, so the pasuk in Isaiah is the model for us, because the pasuk, let's get clear, the pasuk in Isaiah uses the word mispar two ways in Pashtus. Can count, cannot count. The same also in our pasuk, the word mispar, Yisrael, can also be understood in the same way as there is a number, or behemshach, at the beginning of the pasuk there's no number. Clear? So that's what we gain from the pasuk in Isaiah. And the second thing he's pointing out is that that this pasuk is both, as Rashi points out, on the pasuk Ka'es Yomar Ba'Pol Kel, that there are, and it's the hemshech of this nevuah, that this pasuk can be understood both current and future. Okay, so conclusion: the two pirushim, current and future, A and B, yes number, B, no number. Now it's going to be masbit. It's interesting, he doesn't spell out contradictions, questions, just a statement of fact, which the Maimon is going to explain. Now, further, the plot thickens. The pasuk mentions both, right? Monoh for Ya'kov, who can count. I don't like the word dust, because dust is an accumulation of all kinds of things, including human skin. It's not dust, it's earth. It's a wrong translation. It means the granules of earth. Which, mind you, probably ultimately is also, there's everything that's floating around the atmosphere, but it means the earth, not human skin and other particles. Mistranslation. Okay, so the pasuk mentions two dargas of Ya'kov and Yisrael. Shebehem nichlolim kol b'nei Yisrael. So these two words embrace all Yidden. Maresh kol dargim from the beginning of all levels, atzef kol dargim until the end. Share Ya'kov from Lashon Eikhaso, because Ya'kov is from Lashon Eikev, which means a hill. Shezui tachtis hamadregish b'neshamas Yisrael. This is the lowest level of neshamas Yisrael, kvishein b'bchinas Eikev sheberegel, as the neshama is on the level of the heel of the foot. V'Yisrael, by contrast, oises li rosh kedisa b'svarim. It's from the Arizal, that the word Yisrael is made up of two words. Unto me is a head, or my head. Shezuhi b'chinas reishu moichin, that's the head and the brain, shebeneshamos are the highest levels. The that it includes the dargish ein l'mayli meno, the head upon which there is nothing higher. Okay, that's fact. Ach tzarich l'havin. But now we need to understand the association in the pasuk. Ma'ar inyan, so that's nice that all Yidden are embraced, from the lowest to the highest, but you have to understand the distinction. Gabi Yaakov nemar loshen ofar, by Yaakov it says ofar, the earth. Mimon afar Yaakov. V'gabi Yisrael nemar loshen roiva, and by Yisrael there's this idea of roiva, which he told you it means before a quarter, it also means impregnation. Why this difference? Why these associations? Even roiva means who can count the seed in the first type, even 1/4 of the 12 tribes, but who can count the issue, the seed? So it's all related in that sense, but there's different lashonis and different imagery, clearly earth and seed. We also have to understand that when he negates, obviously in the pasuk, that cannot be counted, where does he say that it cannot be counted? That's spelled out only by Yaakov. Mimon afar Yaakov, who can count? It's a rhetorical question. You cannot. Mashen can be Yisrael, so it's a pella. When it comes to the darg of Yisrael, even though it's a higher level than Yaakov, but like a head, parallel, like the heel, the word of mispar is stated, and that could be understood as there is no number, or could be understood that there is a number. It allows for the interpretation, the understanding. How could that be? By the highest darga, that there is the possibility, which means that pirush, which means such a thing exists, that it is limited, and by Yaakov it's mimon. All right? Let's have a review of this ois, which has 3 parts to it. The first part is the analysis of the psukim. Oh, well, actually, we're looking at one pasuk. But to understand this pasuk, he brings 2 other psukim. He brings a pasuk in the hemshech of the nevuah of Bilam, and he brings a pasuk from Moishe, all to elucidate the meaning of our pasuk. So please tell me what that is and what the conclusion, therefore, of it all is. Number 1 is what? The first observation, the first conclusion.
Pasuk at the end of the nevuah.
Sorry?
Pasuk at the end of the nevuah teaches us that it could be referring either to future or present.
Okay, you're right. So the first thing is that the pasuk has a pirush, it means current, and it also means future.
At the end, so we're learning that it also applies to the whole nevuah.
What?
So we're learning from that pasuk that it applies to the whole nevuah.
Just like we see in the hemshech of the nevuah, where he says Ka'esi Omer Yaakov, but he saw Mapal Kael. Rashi brings 2 psukim and 2 pirushim on Ka'es. A time will come, or now. Now through Urim V'Tumim, or a time will come because you didn't be so elevated, and there'll be Lifnim Yishur Sadim and Chavedim Makshivim L'Koilech. This is my Basi L'Ganim Ma'amadim the Hemshech. Yeshevas Beganim, if you recall. At any rate, close brackets. So he's just saying, Kamuven Mimashakos Besiming. It's also when you learn this pasuk, it's also present and future, but it's clearly spelled out in the Hemshech. The 2 pirush. That's number 1 observation. And in concluding that, he says, the Ikka one is Taka, the future. Now, what's the Ikka one, the future? Mimana. Now he brings the pasuk of Isaiah. The pasuk of Isaiah, it helps us in 2 ways. That it's clear that's a future prophecy, and then the pasuk of Isaiah brings out another thing that we apply to our pasuk. And what's that? The pasuk in Isaiah says,
2 ideas of.
Pardon?
Seems like there is a mispar, and also seems like they can't be counted. Which one?
Now that lends itself very clearly in the pasuk of Isaiah. Read it and translate it. The number will be future. So the future is already established, but now beyond the future insight, now what is the meaning of misbar? Is it countable or countless? So there, you could touch clearly. There's 2 separate inyanim. And then he says, so in the pasuk, there's a clear distinction. Number, no number. This can be applied also here. In our pasuk, the word misbar could be understood as there is a number, or behemshech to the beginning, me, who can count? So right away now, jump to the question. Oh, but okay, go hemshech. The pasuk talks about what two dargas. What are the two dargas? Yaakov being what? The lowest level, and Yisrael being the highest. He says, of which there's nothing higher. So now the pellet. When it comes to Yaakov, what was the first question he asked? Yeah, the first question wasn't a pellet, just a shaila. Why, when it comes to Yaakov, what's the analogy? Who can what?
It says by Yaakov,
Afar, earth. When it comes to Yisrael, who can count? Or the number to Taichin, there is or there isn't. But what are we counting here? Roiva Yisrael. Again, two pirushim, a quarter or their seed, their in the copulation. And then the final shaila.
the idea that we can't count is related to Yaakov.
So when it comes to Yaakov, which is the lower darga, this is the pellet. He says you cannot count. When it comes to Yisrael, it allows for the pirush that you could count. And Yisrael is the higher darga. That's why there's the hemshech in Yonim. There was the introduction of Yaakov Yisrael was to lead to this question. And then it's all part of the answer. Be clear? So, yeah. So, summarizing. Let's summarize it in one paragraph. Aaron, you're on the roll. Keep on going. In summary, our questions are, what do we know? What are our questions? In summary, we have that the pasuk speaks about future. The pasuk lends itself to the word of mispar. It leads, the mispar of Yisrael lends itself to two pirushim. You said already, present, in addition to present and future. Another thing, there is a number or there's not a number. Mispar could be a hemshech to me, Monoh, or on its own. And then we have to understand why Yaakov is in need of offer and Yisrael is reiva. And then the shaila at the end, the lower darga, he says, clearly you cannot count. But the higher darga, Yisrael it can be understood. The pasuk lends itself, and therefore it's emes, that there is a number. How could that be? Okay, that's the conclusion. You're writing the questions? Love it. Good. By the way, before I forget, because you might run out early, excuse me, the Maimer of yesterday, aren't you the Chazar Shabbos and Shul? Short Maimer, you started writing. Yeah? Shabbos after Gimel Tmuz. Huh?
We'll talk.
No, we're not talking. We talked to her. You're going to the oil, yeah?
Probably.
How are you going?
Driving.
Well, you're driving. So you can listen. If you listen, it'll help you remember it. Okay. Beis v'yuven behektem klol sayin the afar Yaakov v'reva Yisrael. So what's the inyan of the earth of Yaakov and the reva of Israel, the seed? We'll call it seed. Shekoi ala neshama kefi shiredes lemato. This refers to the neshama down here. Both. Because dine ha'inyan the Yaakov Israel, usually Yaakov is the neshama invested in the guf, and Yisrael is the neshama l'mayla. He says that's in general, but bepratius it applies even to the neshama down here. The inyan Yaakov Yisrael yeshna gam kefi neshama same l'mayla. You have the two dargas both ways. Of Yaakov Yisrael, first he says the way it is the Maila, Kodim Stabshosam, before the comment to the Gov, Shagam Oz, Yeshna, even then too, there is in the Rosh Yisrael Veregel, Yaakov, the two dargets. Aval, but now Al Paso, Kain, Dafar Yaakov, that's the earth of Yaakov. The meaning of the word offer, earth, means also offer of our physical world. So this pasuk is clearly, that's only the neshama, the way it comes down here. And so here too is the two dargis of Rosh and Yaakov and Yisrael, Rosh and Regel. Just like there's the two dargis Lamayla. Now the second pirush, awakening the Reva Yisrael. Likewise, Reva, Kepirish Rashi, Midrash Chazal, Rashi brings from Chazal, Reva Yisayan, their copulation. I don't know another better word for it. Shezeh, Harilodas Neshamas Chadoshes. That's interesting. This is the birth of new neshamas. What's that Goshen, new neshamas? We're not mamshech new neshamas, but they did. Al yedei the prorovo, through prorovo being fruitful and multiplying. Because l'chayre, if it's a neshama that was down here already and completing a job, it's a separate union. It's a separate, as we'll see, probably behemshech. The point is like a new neshama coming down to the world. This is what he's marveling at. As we'll see, Mistame. And a neshama that comes back is already been here and is carrying baggage. It's not a novel, not such a novel event. Akol upon. So what's Rabbi saying? Neshamas chadoshes al yedei ha'inyan. Yeah, that's the matter. When does this happen? Protovo. It's only when the neshama comes down the mountain, and invested in the body. It's dafka when the neshama comes into the body in the creation of a child that reveals the infinite power of the infinite one. Blessed be being a Elad that is manifest in birth, which is virtually yesh ma'ayin, something from nothing. Okay, so in conclusion, he's saying that the pasuk is talking about Afar Yaakov, obviously speaking about the Elam Hazeh, and even the Reva Yisrael, which is birth, is also Elam Hazeh. The Keich Ein Sof of birth happens down here in the guf and with the guf. Now, having said that, so why is neshama coming down? So neshama coming down, the Ein Bishvelatzim is not for itself. This is classic. Kemuva betanya, he brings in Tanya, Masha in Perek Lamed Zayin, the whole Dirib Tachtonim there, Masha Kosa Beitz Chayim, that which says Neitz Chayim, quote, and neshama atzim, and it's a chatikun klal. The neshama doesn't have to be fixed at all. The whole point of coming down here is that the shlich is to elevate the sparks. There are many aspects to that, as we will elaborate. What's the general idea? What's birur? Birur means that there's something, there's impurity, there's dross there, but there's also the valuable component. They're mixed. But they have birur through the refinement, through the selection. Mezachach can be refined or mildly, when we elevate the good stuff, which is what it really is, to its source. The comes down there to elevate the sparks that are in Elam Hazeh, extracting them from the dross. So that's the shlichus why the neshama came down there. Gimel. Okay, what's the summary of this ice? Guys on the Zoom, you're welcome and encouraged to participate, to express yourself. Summary. They love him. He first establishes that Rosh v'Regel Yaakov and Yisrael is both Lamayla and Lamata. What are we speaking here? Lamayla or Lamata? The whole point of the Ois is to say that here we're talking about the neshama, both dargas taka, but where? Dafka where? Here. How do you see this in the pasuk? Number one, offer. Offer means offer agashmi also. And number two, Reva Yisrael, birth, seed. That's only lamat. So the Koyach Ein Sof is revealed. That's what he's establishing. That the pasuk is talking about the neshama, both reish v'rega lamata. That's what he wants in this ois. And then concludes with, why is the neshama lamata? For what? Avodas, which means to extract the valuable, the desirable from the undesirable. Elevate it to its source. Okay. Ois Gimel. This Maimer is on tape. You'll be Tmuz. And this will be understood. The pasuk says, "B'tilim is Pei Zayin." Now, Pei Zayin tell us in footnote 12, capital 87. That is the capital that corresponds to, imagine, 1966. 87 corresponds to the years of the Frierdiker Rebbe's life. He's entering then into year Pei Zayin. 87. So what is it? And Yud Tmuz is the Frierdiker Rebbe's birthday. So the Rebbe is quoting here, bringing in the capital Tilim for this year, that year that he's entering. So the pasuk says, and this became later in Nigun when the Rebbe entered into Pei Zayin. Oiv Hashem shari Tzion, Hashem loves the gates of Tzion, Mikoel Mishkanis Yaakov, from all the dwelling places of Yaakov. What does this mean? The Gemara says in Berachos, Oiv Hashem, Hashem loves She'orim Ametzuyonim Ba'alacha, the gates which excel in halacha. That's the Shari. The word Tzion, Pashup Pshat. The word Tzion is a sign, is a marker, something which stands out. That's what the word Tzion means. So Shari Tzion means gates that are outstanding. What are the outstanding gates of all the other holy places as well, where Torah is studied and there's Tefillah? So the Gemara says, these are the places where they excel, mitzuyonim, excel, stand out. The word tzion, mitzuyonim. Mitzuyon means someone is a mitzuyon, excellent, outstanding, because he stands out, tzion. Now, halacha, yoisem, mibati knisis, mibati midrashis, more than the shul where they daven, and bati midrashis where they learn Torah. So what do you see from the Gemara is mamshech in more detail there, that since the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, the Bishas Daladamas is only where? Daladamas shel halacha, yeah? Even though there's obviously a great mile in the shul, but the knesses means places where people gather, knesses. It's in Yinat Tefillah. And then but the Midrash, which is in Yinat Torah, and Yidna learning Torah, it's obviously tremendous mile. Mikol Mokem, what is the pasuk saying? Oiv Hashem Shari Tzion, Haino, the Shar, Mamitzion Ba'alocha, the gates, the places where they excel in halacha when Naila Idris is left to you still. Now, if you understand, you have to understand, what's the virtue of the of halacha? We understand, okay, it would have a mile of a shul, as which is in a tefillah, as is in the mile of Torah of a tefillah. Ella, it's even higher than Torah Starish and not Torah. What's the mile of halacha? That explains in Tanya in Simen Chavav, yeah? He tells us in footnote 14. Good mile is bir halacha psuka. That is meidig there in the great virtue of the final ruling. Psuka means cut. Like this and not like this. Clear-cut ruling. What's the inyan of it? Levared hamuter, because it's only through the halakha psuka that the refinement of the world happens. Levared, to select hamuter v'ator, that which is permissible and that which is pure from Meya also, which is forbidden, vatame, or the impure. So what's the mile behind the loiraklim lashakle v'tarish b'teira? So it's higher than not only the shakle v'tari, the discussion. Shakle v'tari means weighing, taking and weighing, like you weigh on the scale. Sheb'teira v'ad din v'alacha ba'ofen. And it's higher than even the din and the halacha ba'ofen. So this is taking us through the process of Torah. First of all, the discussion. Shayilas, kashas, discussion. Shakti v'tari. Then there's the halacha. But the halacha, we don't do the final ruling, we've clarified the opinions, but what are we left with? As we've clarified, first thing is to clarify what's the man da'ama saying. Once it's clarified, what's the end of that? Both are true, Shammai and Hillel. So it's still not Sh'orim Tziyonim, but halacha. The mila of halacha is the third final stage. It's what does Eiv Hashem, what does he love? More than anything else, it's the final ruling. That's the psak din. The psak din, shalacha kamoisa, the halacha that rules, halacha is like this one. Why? Because us yoidim keitzat tzorich liyosef habira. Now we know how we have to elevate. Now he says, look beautifully, is the final ruling about the discussion at hand. It's all about some mitzvah. Are we going to elevate it by engaging it or elevating it? Using the classic disputants. The Allah makes it Hillel is lenient and allows. What does he mean? He says we can elevate the spark, engage it. The Hillel rules that it's not tied down in such a way. That's the word forbidden means. Tied down in klipa, and it cannot be elevated. And he says, the person can eat it, talking about food, for example, if it's mutar b'achila. And what's Shammai saying? Shammai says, we don't care about Vedas HaBerurim. Shammai says, everybody comes down for the same shlichus. But Shammai says, sometimes you have to elevate by rejecting. You reject, that's how you extract the good. Huh?
It's either inside or outside.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about why it's called Sha'arim. Could be. The gate, taken within or rejected the outside. Huh?
The shop of the tire, it's Sha'arim like measurements. But then when it's a sock, then it's maybe either inside.
You're in or you're out. Yeah. That could well be. Okay. Given shalacha can be sham la'achmilosa. If the final ruling is that what also, so how are we elevating it? By rejecting it. Because we have, in this case, we have to be strict and we have to forbid. So let's conclude. This is the mila of the gates that excel in halacha over stam batim midrashim. It's only through the final clear-cut ruling. Nishlam rotzen habeire, the will of Hashem, the Creator, is realized, is fulfilled. Being abirudim, to elevate the world, to engage the world in these two ways. Which is why the neshama came down. To be with Hashem continued with Chodesh.